Hi, this is Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design, and in this video we'll talk about another energy type, the generators. Now, generators, sometimes called pure generators, as opposed to manifesting generators, will always have the red sacral on their chart filled in. That's the second square up from the bottom. And they will not have a motorized connection to the throat, which means that they don't have a connection directly to the throat from a motor. Now, their throat might be white or it might be colored in. Either way, if it's not connected to a motor in the body, which would be any of the four that are colored in here, the will, the solar plexus, the sacral, or the root center, then they will not have a connection to the throat. And they won't have a motorized throat, which would allow them to be heard more easily, as manifesting generators can be. So generators are here to work and procreate. That's what we're here for. That red sacral that's colored in is all about workforce and life force energy. We basically, I happen to be a generator also, create the buzz on the planet that keeps things going. We're the worker bees. We're the ones who in the past century, we were the farmers, we were the factory workers, we were the laborers, we were the ones who built the churches and the monuments and the buildings and everything else that went into building a country here and in other countries. We are the ones who are usually methodical. We're slower than some of the other types, but very good workers who will get the job done well. And as a result, because we do things and are happy to do things over and over and over again, we become master craftsmen as a result. And we are definitely more turtle than hare. We'll be the ones reading the policy manuals. We'll be the one reading the instruction manuals. We'll be doing all of that in a very methodical way and making sure the job gets done correctly, as opposed to some of the other energy types. So nothing wrong with that. This is the way we're designed. This is the way generators are supposed to act. And we do experience a series of plateaus in life, and those are learning plateaus. And so it's a little bit of just imagine learning a little bit, plateauing, and then basically hitting a wall. And when you hit that wall, that's when generators feel frustration. We feel a lot of frustration. And the more frustration we feel, usually the closer we are to having a breakthrough. So a lot of us will quit prematurely, especially earlier in life. We'll quit the relationship, we'll quit the boyfriend or girlfriend, we'll quit the job, and or leave a roommate in the lurch, right? Because we can't stand it anymore. And usually that frustration is the cause of that. The breakthrough is about to come if we would just be a little more patient. And so usually as we get to be older, we do find that patience and we do find that understanding of situations, and we realize that a breakthrough will be coming. Once the breakthrough comes, then we're able to make a decision and act appropriately. When we find the right work, when we find the right work for us, generators have even more energy to do what they love to do. I work with a lot of clients who are, in their 40s, 50s, 60s even, who are wanting to do something different and are now finding that they can do something differently, that they can pick up the passion that they had in their 20s and go for it. And when they do, they find that they have even more energy. A lot of times what happens is that all the things that weren't feeling good, they start to feel good. They start to have more energy. They start to all of a sudden be working on all cylinders, and things move ahead quite nicely. Their strategy for making decisions as a generator is to wait to respond. And what that means is that we should be waiting for things to show up in our outer reality, that we should wait for things to show up like an email or a new friend or a new client, or it could be a sign. It could be a bird or a license plate or anything else that shows up in your outer reality that will tell you that it's the right time to do something. A lot of times with the sacral especially, it's kind of a feeling. We should be listening to our gut. That's what the waiting to respond is about. When that new client shows up or that new friend shows up, all of a sudden we have a good feeling about it. We feel like things are possible. We feel like things can move forward. And when you have that feeling in your gut, which can be either a good feeling or a not so good feeling, you'll know that it's time to move ahead or not. When generators try to make things happen, where they initiate things without waiting to respond to something in their outer reality, then that's when they feel frustration. They'll meet with resistance. they won't be able to get somewhere, something won't happen, they'll get turned down for a job. When they're trying to push and make things happen, that's when things do not happen for a generator. All that pushing doesn't do us any good. The pushing is much harder to do. We meet with a lot more resistance than we would if we were waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to come to us, waiting for ourselves to attract something. And so the difference is that the pushing versus waiting to respond sounds a little wimpy. It sounds very passive. It sounds not like the Nike Just Do It person, right? But in the end, that's what will get you there. And if you think back tonight to times when you waited for something to respond to, or something came into your world and then you had the opportunity to respond to it, versus the pushing of and trying to make something happen, which one worked out better? Which one felt more in the flow? Which one was more successful in the end? I think you'll find that the ones that were easier to deal with, that felt more in the flow, will be the times when you were responding to something, responding to an invitation, responding to a question, responding to an opportunity of some sort. Any of those times that you were responding will feel a lot better than any of the times you were trying to push. So some of the generator fears will be, first of all, the not self theme, or when we're not following our strategy, our not self is showing up, and that not self is feeling frustration. When we are trying to push to make something happen, when we're feeling frustrated, when we're feeling resistance to the things that we're trying to do, that's going to lead to frustration. We also have the fear that nothing will show up if I wait. If I'm just waiting to respond, how passive is that? So we have the fear that nothing will show up if I wait, and the frustration that just keeps making you want to quit, right? Culturally, we think we should be listening to our minds. Most people say, oh, just do the pros and cons, or just figure it out in your head, or talk to other people and see what they think. But you have to listen to your sacral. You have to be the one to listen to your gut and make sure that you know that what you're doing is correct for you. But some people aren't sure what their sacral is saying anyway. And so we have ways to get around that. The easiest way is to practice listening to your gut, to practice seeing what it is you want for lunch, which restaurant you want to go to, simple things like that, silly things like that. But that will give your gut a chance to respond, and you will be able to get more in tune with what your gut is saying. We also feel like we might be settling for less because of our impatience sometimes, or we wonder if we're compromising our desires and keeping ourselves from really having what we're supposed to be having. So here are some famous generators. Oprah Winfrey happens to be a generator. The current presidential candidate, Elizabeth Warren, is a generator. And there are lots of other generators. My favorites are Oprah, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs, all of whom were very successful billionaires. Successful in their own businesses, successful in their mostly in their lives, and successful by responding to the things that came to them. They, yes, had their own businesses, but they still were responding. If you read their stories, as I have, they still were responding to things that came to them. They weren't pushing, and when they did push, as you know, happened in some of Steve Jobs' cases, where he was fired from a number of jobs, that's when he was trying to push, usually. Some other generators are, for example, John Lennon, Tom Brady, the Dalai Lama, Albert Einstein, Madonna, and Lady Gaga are both generators, Dolly Parton, Johnny Carson, Ellen DeGeneres, Paul Simon, and Tom Brady's wife, Gisele Bündchen. In the next video, we'll talk about manifesting generators. Thanks for being here.